Baruchim haboim, welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Mem Vav Amud Aleph. The Gemara is discussing Birkas Hazimun and Birkas Hamazon in general. And now the Gemara gets into various halachos of Su'uda. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Zera Cholash. Rabbi Zera fell ill. Ol legabe Rabbi Abohu came to visit him. Kabil alei imispach Katina Chorich Shaki Avina Yoima Toivel Rabbonon. He said, Rabbi Abo, that if Rabbi Zera gets healed, then I will accept upon myself to make a su'uda for the Chachamim. Now here he refers to Rabbi Zera with the following nickname, Katina Chorich Shaki. Literally it means the short one whose thighs were singed. What does this refer to? Rabbi Zera, previously, when he left Eretz Yisrael, so he left and he took upon himself 300 fasts. The last of the 300 fasts, the last 100 fasts, he did so in order to then not have the fires of Gehenna have effect on him. And therefore, every 30 days, he would sit in an oven to test to make sure that the fires of the oven don't affect him, in order to make sure that the Gehenna ultimately will not affect him either. So he was successful every month. However, there was an ayin hara that was put on him, and then when he sat down in the oven, he singed his thighs. So therefore, he got the nickname of Katina Chorich Shaki. So anyways, Rabbi Abo says that if Rabbi Zera gets healed, then I will make a suda for the Chachamim. And indeed, Ispach, Ovid Su'uda lekulu rabbanon. He became healed, and Rabbi Abo, he made a suda for all the chachamim. Ki mata lemishri, Omar le Rabbi Zera lishri lon mar. When it was time to begin the suda, he asked Rabbi Zera, the one in honor of the suda, to make the suda to begin for everybody else. Omar le lo savar lamar lehoz Rabbi Yochanan, damar bal habayis boitzeya. Do you not hold like Rabbi Yochanan that the balabais is the one who breaks the bread and is moitzi everybody else? Shara lehu. So indeed Rabbi Abo was makabel, and he was the one who made hamotzi for everybody else. Ki mata livruchi, when it came time for Birkas Hamazon, Amrlei nivrich lon mar. He turned to Rabbi Zera and he said, make Birkas Hamazon, make the zimun for us. Amrlei lo savar lamar lehod Rav Huna demin bavel. The Omar Botzei Mevarich. Do you not hold that what Rabbi Rav Huna taught us in Bavel? Where Rav Huna from Bavel said that the one who's the Balabais, he's the one who's Botzeya and he's the one who's Mevarich. V'iu keman svirulate. So what does Rabbi Abo hold? That he was going to then suggest that Rabbi Zera, the one who was the guest, that he should make the Birkas Hamazon. He should make the Zimun. Ki hodam Rabbi Yochanan mishum Rabbi Shim bar Yochai. Balabayis boitzeya v'oreach mevarich. The balabayis, he does boitzeya, he does break the bread and motzi everybody else. However, it's the oreach that makes birkas hamazon the zimun. Balabayis boitzeya kidei sheyivtza ba'ayin yofe v'oreach mevarich kidei sheyivarich balabayis. The balabayis, he's the one who breaks the bread because then he'll give out with an ayin yofe, he'll give out a nice portion of bread to everybody at the table. Whereas the Oreach, he's the one who makes the Birkas HaMazon, because like we said, when he makes the Zimun was such that he would make the entire Birkas HaMazon out loud. Everybody else would be silent and listen attentively to the Birkas HaMazon, whereby he will then be able to then make the bracha for the Balabais, what's called Birkas HaOreach. Ask the Gemara, my Mevorich, what was the bracha that he would make? Yehi ratzon shelo yevosh Balabais b'olam hazeh, v'lo yikalem lo'olam habo. May it be Hashem's will that the Balabais doesn't get embarrassed not in this world or the next world. Since, after all, he provided bread and food for his guests, they should not be embarrassed. They should have sustenance and they should have meals as a guest at his person's home. Thereby, Mida Keneged Mida, this Balabai should also be blessed that he shouldn't be embarrassed by not lacking anything, not in this world and not in the next world. Rabbi Moisif Badvarim, and Rabbi added the following words to the bracha. V'yitzlach ma'oid bechol nechasov, v'yu nechasov unechasenu mutzlochrim, ukroivim la'ir. May his nechasim, his property, be successful, and our properties and his properties be successful, and also our real estate, our land should be close to the ear, meaning to say so that the balabais will be able to then put an eye on his property without having to travel. And the Satan should not have any power over our actions or over his actions. Excuse me, and there should not be an appearance of any chet or avera or iniquity in front of him or in front of us from now on forever. Now ask the Gemara, ad heichan birkas hamazon. In the previous Amud we learned that when there are three people making a zimun, for example, and two of them finished the meal, the third one is still eating. So they began together the meal, and two of them now on a bench, make birkas hamazon, and the third one is in the middle of his eating. So the two of them can force the third one to stop and make birkas hamazon together with him, even though he doesn't have to say birkas hamazon, but he has to answer and make birkas hazimun with them. Then he can go ahead and continue his meal. So until when does he have to stop, and then can he go ahead and continue his own meal? That's the Gemara's question. Ad heichan birkas hazimun. Rav Nachman Omar ad nevarich. Rav Sheshes Omar ad hazon. Rav Nachman says until the end of birkas hazimun, whereas Rav Sheshes says until the end of the first bracha after the birkas hazimun, until hazon es hakoil. Says the Gemara, Neima kitanoi. Let's suggest that it's a machlokis in the Tanoim. The Tani chado birkas hamazon shnayim v'shloisha. V'tani idach shloisha v'arba. There's one brisa that says 2 or 3 people, even 3 people, let's say only each one knows one bracha out of the birkas hamazon. Let's say if there were 2, then let's say 2 know, one knows more than one, and one knows only one. But let's say there's 3 people, and each one only knows one bracha. Or another brisa that says there's 3 or 4, that says there's, let's say, 4 people that know one bracha. Savrua de kula alma hatoiva hametiv lav de araisehi. And they all hold, both of them, that the 4th bracha of hatoiva hametiv is only their rabbanon. My lad b'hakam mifli. The Gemara suggests, what is the machlokis between these two braisos? Man de omer shtayim v'sholosh kisover ad hazon. The one who holds 2 or 3, that means, we said, even if there are 3 people, but each one only knows one bracha each, so then this man de omer who holds until hazon means that the first one says the birkas hazimun together with bracha of hazan, the second person says the bracha of noidelecha, and the third person says the third bracha of rachem no. Uman de omar sholish ve'arbo kisover ad nevorich. Whereas the other brisa that says that there are 3 or 4 people, even if only the 4 people know only one bracha each, so then the first one will say birkas hazimun, the second will say birkas hazon, the third one will say noidelecha, and the fourth one will say the bracha b'nei Yushalayim. The Gemara says, Lo, Rav Nachman mitaris l'tamei, Rav Sheshes mitaris l'tamei. Each one could answer and explain the brises according to his own reasoning. Rav Nachman mitaris l'tamei, the kuli ad lama ad nevorich. Rav Nachman say, they all hold, like me, that it's ad nevorich, until the end of birkas hazimun. Man de omar sholosh ve'arba shapir, like we said before, because if you hold that there are 4 people, and each one only says one bracha each, so then the first one will say birkas hazimun together with hazon, the second one will say noidelecha, and the third one will say b'nei Yushalayim. Uman de omar shtayim ve'sholosh, omar loch, he'll say to you, hacha ve'birkas payalim askinon. We're talking about when birkas payalim, when the workers in the middle of their work day are making birkas hamazon, domar mar. Posech behazon vekoilel bonei Yerushalayim bebirkas haaretz. When payalim are making birkas hamazon, they make an abridged version. They say the first bracha as is, but the second and third bracha they put together, And therefore, it comes out very good that according to this opinion of Rav Nachman, that indeed he can explain that even though there are only 3 people who know only one bracha each, but the first one will say until Birkas Hazimun, the second will say Hazon, and the third one will say a combination of the bracha of Noideh Lecha together with Bonei Yerushalayim. Rav Sheshet Mitaris L'Tamei, he'll explain according to his reasoning. The Kuli Alma Ad Hazon, that really everybody holds that you say Birkas Hazimun and have to stop until Hazon, until the end of the first bracha. Manda Omer Shtayim V'Shalosh Shapir, like I explained before, it's very good. Because again, if there are 3 people, and each one only knows one bracha, so then the first one says, the first Birkas Hazimun together with Birkas Hazon. The second one says Noideh Lecha, and the third one says the bracha of Bonei Yerushalayim. Uman Damer Shalosh V'Arba Kesover Hatov HaMeitiv D'Oraisa. The one who says 3 or 4, meaning that if they even 4 people and only each one knows one bracha, then each one will say a separate bracha, meaning the first one will say the Birkas Hazimun, the second will say Hazon, the third one will say the bracha of Noideh Lecha, and the fourth one will Manda Amar Shalosh V'Arba, like this. Again, Rav Sheshet says that you say after Mimafsik until Hazon. So again, the first one says Birkas Hazimun together with Hazon. The second one says Noideh Lecha. The third one says Bonei Yerushalayim, and the fourth one will say Hatov HaMeitim because it's Deraisa. Om Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marta Mishmei Rav. Teida, I'll prove to you. The Hatov HaMeitim lav D'Oraisa. It's a bracha that's Midirabonon. Sheharei Poseach bo bebaruch ve'in choisem bo bebaruch. Because you open the bracha with baruch, and you complete the bracha with baruch. And therefore that indicates that it's a separate bracha. That's not D'Oraisa like the first 3 brachos. As the Gemara will explain. Kidetanya. Like it says in the following brisa. Kol ha-brachos kulon. All of the brachos. Posech behem bebaruch ve'choisem behem bebaruch. They open up with baruch and they conclude with baruch. Chutz mi birkas ha-peiros u-birkas ha-mitzvos. With the exception of Birkas HaPeiros and Birkas HaMitzvos, which are short brachos, and therefore the Hoidah only requires a bracha in the beginning. Ubracha Hasmucha Lechaverta, that also is using the bracha that is before it as its psicha, therefore you don't need to make a bracha in the beginning. For example, in the Birkas HaMazon, let's say, Noideh Lecha does not begin with Baruch because it uses the bracha of Baruch Atah Hashem Hazones HaKol. Ubracha achroina shebekriya shema. The bracha achrona, meaning the bracha that follows kriya shema, emes v'yatziv, that also does not begin with bracha, with baruch, because it also is soimech baruch lechaverta, smucha lechaverta, for the baruch that was used before in the brachas of kriya shema before the kriya shema. Yesh mehen shepoiseach behem bebaruch, ve'en choisem bebaruch. There are those that open up with baruch, but they do not conclude with baruch. And there are those that conclude with Baruch, do not open with Baruch. Says the Gemara, and Hatoiva Meitiv, it begins with Baruch, and it also is Choisem with Baruch. Meaning to say that if indeed that was Deraisa, then let it be Soimech to the brach that it's in front of. Just like Noideh Lecha uses its beginning with the bracha from before, and therefore it doesn't poiseach with Baruch. And just like Bonei Yerushalayim begins Rachem No without a bracha of Baruch because it's also Samach Lechaverta and uses the Baruch from before. So then Hatov HaMeitiv should do the same. The fact that it doesn't, Michlal says the Gemara, the bracha b'fnei atzmahi, it must be a bracha on its own. Because if it was a bracha that's D'Oraisa, then it should also be Samach Lechaverta, and it should not be Poseach beBaruch and Choisem beBaruch. Elamai, you see that in fact it's a bracha on its own. Unlike the first 3 brachas that are D'Oraisa, this is a bracha that's D'Rabbanon.